Hi, welcome to Portland Film Beat. My name is Dave Poland, and my guest tonight is Kristen Kimball. We're going to talk about her film, Creation. Welcome aboard.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. What first got you interested in film?
Well, when I was a little kid, my dad and I would watch movies and TV, and he would pause the movie or the television show, and he'd say, "This part really works, I like this part," or he'd be like, "This part's really dumb, I hate this part a lot."
Right. Did your dad have a camera?
He actually never made a film ever, but it was pretty much the only way that we were really able to connect as people.
Oh, really?
So pretty much all the conversations that we would ever have would be about movies or TV.
Well, that is, yeah, but that's kind of a fun thing if you had that in common.
Yeah, it was. And
Did you stay up late at night and watch movies with him?
We did, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And it created an obsession that lasts to this day.
Oh, really? Did you guys have a favorite film together?
Jeez. I mean, we had movies that ranged all over. I pretty much, when I was little, I would pick whatever he liked the best, and I would say that I liked that too.
Oh, really? Okay. How many films have you made?
Counting this one, I've made 12 that I've written and directed, and then I've worked on a couple of hundred indies,
really?
which is crazy.
So when you work on others, are you do a lot of the production work?
I do,
You
yeah.
assist in camera and
you know,
everything?
In the indie world, sometimes you have to be everything. So, I mean, there are a few features out there that should probably never see the light of day that I was sound and assistant director and producer. And
Really? Okay,
yeah.
but that's the way indie filmmaking goes.
Exactly. You got to get that sucker finished. you know?
Right. And do you ever do any acting or the other stuff?
No. The very first short that I wrote,
Okay.
I had a friend of mine direct because it made me too nervous to actually do it. And he wrote a part for me in it, and he didn't tell me until the day that we started to shoot, when he handed me pages and he's like, "Go act this part."
And
so
you did?
It was terrible. I did, because he wanted me to do
Are you going
it.
to put it on YouTube so we can all have a good time with it too?
No, I asked him to take it off. He took it off.
What other screenplays have you written besides Creation?
I've written tons and tons of shorts,
Right.
most of which have been unproduced. I've only
Right,
produced
okay.
a few. And,
Did you have anything show at the film festival recently?
yeah, actually, I showed The Box, which was adapted
I remember
from,
The Box.
Yeah. It was adapted from a Bruce Colville short story. It was a children's story. I first read it when I was a little kid, and I never forgot it. So.
Okay.
It was by Portland standards, it was a very large film. We spent 16 grand on it, and it's 20 minutes long.
Wow.
So yeah, it was
You
overwhelming.
got some good backing then.
Yeah, it's I did probably about 3/4 of the funding through Indiegogo, and the rest we found a private investor in LA.
Wow, great. Tell us about the premise for Creation.
So the premise of Creation is about this little girl. She knows she doesn't fit in the normal world, and she doesn't know why. And her mother has been dead her entire life, and she's very close with her uncle. And eventually she gets her uncle to take her back to where her mother is buried and where she grew up. And they get sucked into this dying fantasy world where the sun like takes up half the sky. And she eventually figures out that her mother and her uncle created this world, and she was actually born in it.
Oh.
And she recreates the world sort of in her own image at the end of the story.
Wow. Okay. Well, I've watched the trailer, and we're going to watch it as well. That makes a lot of sense to me now. You know, hearing about
Well,
that.
it's meant to be like a twin. The way that we designed it, it's supposed to be like I pitch the film, and then I show the film to. We have people that we're going to show it to who might invest.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
What are a few things you learned making the trailer?
My God, I learned so much. Well, I did The Box just before that, and The Box was sort of the first time that I ever did anything big. And it was so big that it was kind of overwhelming. And then I ran into Rochelle Henry, who's one of the actresses.
Yeah, I know Rochelle well.
Yeah, exactly. She's one of the actors.
Who's the guy in it?
Jonathan Jolin, who
I
is
don't know
awesome. He lives in LA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was in the 8th or 9th short film that I directed.
Okay.
And like I knew that they'd look like they were related. But I actually had them sit down and do a read through like a year and a half ago for the first time.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
When did you shoot the Creation then?
A year ago, just over a year ago.
Okay,
yeah.
right. And you shot it at the coast?
Yeah, entirely on the coast.
So this image that we're looking at, is actually a picture of they're not actually in front of that building, are they?
No, that doesn't
And
exist.
tell them how you did that with the fog. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, so what you're looking at is actually, it's basically a giant smokestack that actually exists for real on the coast, and we drove and parked right next to the smokestack, and then I had the actors act out this giant field of strawberries where she bends down and she picks up a strawberry. And the only thing that's actually real, that was a real element in that shot, was what she's holding in her hands and the two actors.
It looks like you did a great job, because I thought it was a real image when I saw it, and I was like,
well, it is a real castle, but it's somewhere.
I thought they were really there, you know. I mean,
it took a lot.
And especially in the trailer, which we're going to watch, it looks really phenomenal.
Yeah,
so.
The effects took 9 months, and I found some amazing people to work on them.
You did? Okay, great. Huh?
Yeah.
What do you think is to briefly describe the appeal that creation's going to have for audiences?
Well, honestly, like, I'm a huge fan of weird fantasy movies. Like, I always have been. Like Jim Henson's Dark, like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. I'm a huge fan of those. Like Neil Gaiman stories. I'm a huge fan of
Is this from your experience with your dad growing up?
Yes,
Did he have
actually,
a little bit on that? Okay.
Yeah, he turned me on to all this stuff. Actually, it was his favorite stuff first, and then it became mine. And I actually wrote this story as a book almost exactly 10 years ago in 2004. And I didn't even try to get it published. I just kind of put it away. But it's always been a kind of story that I've loved.
It's stuck with
I've
you.
Just adored. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I wanted to make at least a part of it.
What are your film's strengths?
Well,
the special effects, that's for sure.
Yeah, the special effects are great. I'm a huge fan of both of the actors. I adore them both.
I love Rochelle's awesome.
Yeah, she is. And John actually really clicked really well with her. And the majority of the part where he's telling her a story on the beach was actually improv'd, like as we were going. I just sort of let them sit down and they started talking to each other. And they invented like multiple sentences.
Well, they became the characters. That's really great. This is a difficult question. What are some of the film's weaknesses? Or will
actually, that is a very good question. I've thought through this part. It is actually a pretty weird story. And like, even though I'm a huge fan of that stuff, that doesn't have as huge appeal as, say, like Transformers or something. Which
you know
I'm
what?
fully aware of.
You know what? If it's your film and which you like, the audience will find it.
Exactly.
You know, here's the thing: is Hollywood's got to shoot these films that go overseas and make millions and millions because it's a business. You don't have to do that. I actually like the film. We're going to watch a trailer from it in just a minute here. We're going to keep going up for it.
Okay.
How does this film primarily differentiate or distinguish itself from other works?
Well, oh geez, there's a ton of reasons why, but
when we see the trailer, they'll know.
Yeah.
But keep going. That's okay. We want to hear about it first.
Like to go back to the earlier question, it kind of combines the two. Of all those fantasy films that I love, the majority of them cost a ridiculous amount of money, like an insane amount of money. And I knew, like, when I stumbled on Rochelle and I knew she'd be perfect for this book that I wrote, I also knew that I would never get my hands on $5 million. I'm just not at that level yet. So
hopefully we're on our way there.
Hopefully.
We're trying.
But I have to design this film around the available budget. I can get my hands on $100,000, $200,000. So what can I do for that amount of money?
Good for you if you can get your hands on that much.
Actually, it's easier than you would think. But if I can get my hands on that amount of money, you know, how am I going to make a fantasy film work? So I actually designed it specifically to be shot for a very, very low budget.
How about we take a moment right now and watch that trailer?
Yes, please.
We're going to take a moment right now to watch the trailer from Creation. Stand by. We'll be right back.
Mom.
Anne St. Germain, 22 years. Sister, daughter, mother.
Graham Smith, 26 years. Wait, is he my dad? Dad. Dad and Mom. So, what happened to them? Can you just tell me?
Time to go, Sammy.
What? Please, can we just stay like 5 more minutes?
Time to go.
It's not! It's so not! But can you just tell me what happened?
Well, your mom was a lot like you.
Like how?
Always making up amazing things. You know, like, let's make a house. But really, it's a castle.
A house that's really a castle.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
But she would also do stuff that wasn't safe. So we stopped hanging out. I moved away. And she fell for some guy that wasn't good for her.
Wait. That's me.
That's your mom.
No. But it's me.
Wow, I love that trailer. It's almost like a it's surreal, like a lucid dream.
Yeah, good. That's kind of what I was going for.
Okay, so in front of the swing set, where was that?
Oh, geez.
Is that actually?
You ever been at Seaside?
Of course.
Yeah, that is the swing set from Seaside, although the effects guy, I found this wonderful effects guy named Paul Turcotte.
You can tell his name again.
Yeah, Paul Turcotte. Please hire him because he is
absolutely.
so awesome. And he took what was basically a 4-person swing set and he turned it into like this never-ending ocean which slowly disappears. And I could kind of explain it with like storyboards and kind of what I was going for. He made it 4 times better.
Right. And who was the cinematographer?
That is Nathan Coltrane, who is also a genius.
Right.
I love him.
He did a good job.
Yeah,
He really did.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, how do you work with the actors then? Because you directed it and wrote it, right?
Yeah, but like I've kind of developed this tool over time. When you're working in indie film, you're working with a lot of people who either don't work a lot or have never worked in film.
You do, and you have to use the talent you have.
You do, but there are usually ways to draw that out.
Okay.
And I've found that like a combination of gently pushing and also leaving this space to sort of invent what they want to invent actually works really, really well.
Okay, so what if they're going somewhere you don't want them to go?
They never will.
Okay, you don't like get it that far.
Well, I've done enough films now that I learned to hire correctly.
Okay,
you know,
cast correctly.
Yeah, like most of the time I won't even have people read scenes for me anymore. When I cast them, I'll usually just talk to them about who they are.
Okay.
And if I find somebody who matches the character 90% of the time, they'll kick that out of the park.
Well, that's good. Yeah. How do you work with the cinematographer?
It depends on the person, but with Nathan Coltrane, I actually found that if I just quieted down for a minute and I let him think, that he would actually invent a bunch of shots that I hadn't even thought of before.
Well, good. You let him do his job.
Yeah, and I also did, like, I took stand-ins out to the beach, and I just photographed them in all the ways that I was seeing the angles. And then I sent them to Nate, and I'm like, this is what I want to do, like expand on this lighting-wise and everything. And
right.
He said that it really helped.
So you used a lot of natural light. You had to if you were outside, right?
Yeah, had to. And Nate's really good in that way because he shoots like weddings and things where he has to.
Okay, so the cave scene, it looks like a cave, and she sees a picture of herself, and it's actually her mother.
Yeah.
Where was that?
That is Fort Stevens. It's like an old.
Okay,
like,
yeah, I know where it is. I stayed there with my kids once.
Yeah,
once. I don't think we're going back, but you have to do it once.
It's kind of spooky, right? It was awesome.
My kids thought it was spooky.
Yeah, they just barely gave us permission, and we weren't allowed to like put anything up on the walls. So we had.
So who
to,
did
like,
the mural on the wall?
It's a green screen that we had to very trickily have like 2 different PAs hold at either end.
Okay.
So. But it worked at the end of the day.
Wow, and then so you superimposed the image afterwards.
Yes.
Right, your special effects guy, who was that again?
Well, Paul Turcotte did part of it, and I believe that one was actually Izzy Combs. I had 3 different effects artists.
Izzy Combs, I've heard the name before.
Yeah,
right.
Izzy's a good guy. Izzy's a good guy, and he did that part for me. So.
Wow, that's good. Did you have a separate sound person there, a boom operator?
I had multiple, yeah. We shot for 3 days, and then we had to go back and do a reshoot for a 4th day. We reshot the beach scene entirely, mainly because it's a long story, but John and Rochelle had been rehearsing the beach scene and been doing a lot of improv across 3 different rehearsals, and then gotten locked into a certain pattern that I couldn't get them out of the first time.
Right.
And we were running out of time and we were running out of light, so we had to go back and redo it.
Well, you did it though.
Yeah, we did.
It's the way it is sometimes.
And it was actually worth it because they both had time to like reflect and
okay.
redo it. So.
Good. Well, you do work well with the actors then.
Yeah, I do. I allow them, I think both Rochelle and John, I allowed them a huge amount of creative freedom. And it was actually, it's adrenaline for me to watch them in character.
Right.
And they stayed in character more and more as we were shooting. And actually, toward the end, as we would drive from location to location, they would just stay in character the whole time.
Right. So what is your favorite part of filmmaking?
Oh, God. Everything.
Yeah.
I love everything.
Come on, there has to be, okay, you like it all, but is there something that really stands out?
Probably working with the actors.
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
allowing them the space to go places that I didn't think of.
And what's your least favorite thing?
Finding the money. Which I think
but you did a good job. You found
yeah,
some money, so.
Yeah, constantly, like that's constantly an issue, you know.
Right. You do a lot of screenwriting, I take it.
Tons. Yeah.
Okay. How do you go about screenwriting?
Well, it depends, you know, but usually I'll start with an image or 2 in my head or a feeling, and then I'll write down sort of a scene out of that, and then I'll expand it and give it to people for feedback, and they'll tell me this makes no sense, and then I'll go back and redo it.
Right.
So.
Okay. So you write a beginning, middle, and end type thing, and then kind of.
Not necessarily. Sometimes I'll start from the
beginning and go right to the end. That's good. No, you know what? We all have different ways.
Yeah,
and I like
that. It changes.
Right. That's good. No, I like that. Since you like to write, what is your favorite screenplay?
Shawshank Redemption. Definitely.
That was just on TV.
Oh,
on HBO.
I've never gotten sick of that. I've watched that probably 200 times.
Right.
And I want to write something like that. It's so clever. I
think it was made in 1994, actually.
Yeah, and I think it got swamped at the time with like Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump
and everything.
Here's the thing
is, it's 20 years old, and I was perusing channels before I left to come to the studio tonight. And it was on.
Yeah.
And I saw, Tim Robbins. And,
it's a perfect movie.
And it said 1994. I was like, that was 20 years ago. It just doesn't seem like that film was made that long ago, does it?
No.
So,
exactly. Yeah.
Do you have any other actors that you've worked with, like with the box and stuff, that you find that you really enjoy working with?
Actually, everybody that I worked with on the box as well, I would work with again in a heartbeat.
Can you name a couple of them?
Well, there's Ethan Reed McKay, who was, I want to say he was 10 when we worked with him. He was very young, and he was just brilliant. Like, he was very expressive, could easily cry or get into character or whatever I needed him to do. And there was Dylan Lawrence, who's in LA now, and he's like on a bunch of features and stuff. It's ridiculous, but he played the older version of Ethan's character.
All right.
And the both of them just knocked that stuff out of the park.
Good.
They were great.
Who is your favorite film director?
I have tons, but I think I'll go with Aronofsky right now.
Okay. Why?
Other than Noah, which is kind of questionable, I don't think he's made a bad movie. And he's wonderfully visually oriented, but he also knows good stories.
Okay. Noah's got some questionable feedback on that.
Yeah, well, you know, he's made like, what, 6 features that are absolutely perfect? You gotta have a flop in there somewhere.
Right, you're right.
It's okay.
One of my questions, if you could be the assistant director to a director, would it be him?
I gotta go with the stock answer there of Spielberg.
Okay.
Because you just gotta go with Spielberg.
Okay,
He's like
there's
the
nothing wrong with that.
godfather of filmmaking. You know, the
Do
man knows
you have a
everything.
favorite film?
I have so many.
Name a couple of them and tell me why.
Lord of the Rings, because it changed my life. I saw the first one and I'm like, that's what I want to do. Like this took an entire country of people who were dedicated to this piece of filmmaking. And they were absolutely determined to make a beautiful piece of film, and they did. And it took so much time and so much effort, and I just, that's what I want to do, always.
Name another one. And
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
oh, isn't that awesome with Jack Nicholson?
Yeah, you know how they shot that?
No, they shot it here in Oregon somewhere.
They did. It was at an abandoned mental hospital. Actually, I think it was OHSU, now that I think about it. But never mind, it wasn't.
It could be, I don't know.
But so they locked everybody inside the hospital for like a month. And then they had cameras set up everywhere. And you never knew which camera was on and which camera was off. So all the actors had to stay in character all of the time.
Which probably wasn't hard for Jack.
Right, but the rest of them, like, they all kind of
Well, there was
started
Danny
to go
DeVito
crazy.
was in that.
And like he started to worry toward the end of the filming that he was actually going crazy. Like he went up to, I think it was one of the producers, and he's like, I'm starting to talk to myself. This is
Maybe probably that's
really
when he went up
scary.
to Mount Hood and made what was it?
The Shining.
The Shining.
right after that would have fit in really well.
Oh, no, we get it. We understand.
Exactly.
That is great. What kind of inspiration have you drawn from these films in general? You probably drew a lot more inspiration from hanging out with your dad, though, right?
I did a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've always wanted to do what they did in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I've always wanted to do that.
Right.
I have this huge desire to take actors and just like push them into that crazy zone.
Okay. Well,
So,
since we're talking about actors,
yeah.
it's got to be an A-list actor and actress. What
A-list is
A-list
hard.
actress and actor would you like to direct?
A-list is hard because I'm usually attracted to the actors that nobody really knows.
Well, that's
yet.
okay. We say
Can I
them.
do one of those?
Go. Yes, absolutely. And tell us why and what film they've been in.
Okay, so Lee Pace, have you seen The Fall? So there's this fantasy movie called The Fall where they kind of, it's a lot like Creation. They improv'd a good 90% of the film
Okay.
using this little 6-year-old girl and Lee Pace, who's like I think he was in his late 20s at the time. And like he pretty much made the film happen because he was able to guide the little girl and kind of stay out of her light and everything while kind of making the film up with her. And then they shot the rest of the film that way.
Okay.
I'd love to work with somebody like that because he understands all the pieces and he can stay in character. It's
So
brilliant.
what actress?
Jeez. There are a million. Hang on.
Life's too short, right?
Kate Winslet, I think I'd go with.
Yeah, she does a great job.
Yeah.
We already know. I think that I was going to ask what's your a common type of film genre you're relate to or drawn to the most, and you say fantasy,
Definitely
and
fantasy.
sci-fi.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
is there other ones though?
You
Can't watch just those.
No, exactly. I love them all as long as they're well written.
Okay.
Honestly.
Right.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. Well, let me see here. Can you give any advice to someone trying to get into filmmaking?
It's the easiest thing in the world now. You can make a film on your iPhone. you
Right.
know? So really, if you're going to get it made, you just go out and do it. I think the issue comes in actually getting it seen, getting it out into the world so
Right.
that enough eyeballs get on it.
Are you going to have any of your films show here at that Northwest Film Center Festival or anything like that?
Nothing coming up currently. I am retiring the box because that sucker's been around a bunch already. And
That's
this
a good film.
Yeah, it is. I'm pretty proud of it. And creation, the piece of creation that I just made isn't really meant to be shown in festivals so much.
No,
like
of course
it's a
not.
trailer.
It's a trailer trying to track
Yeah,
some money to get it made.
Exactly. So I'm kind of taking a step
How many
back for a
pages is
little
the
while.
screenplay for creation?
122.
Wow, it's going to be a feature-length film then. A nice
Yeah.
two-hour movie, right?
Yeah, that's the idea.
What do you consider the elements of a good film? And then again, a great one.
Something that draws you in, something that makes you feel, something that teaches you something that you didn't know about people or about human behavior.
Right.
Something that feels true.
Right. Okay. So the creation film, is it going to? How will it impact people in that sense then?
That's a good question.
That's a hard question. That wasn't even on the yeah.
That's a good question.
I'm nailing you with that one.
Okay. How will it impact people in that way?
Let's go back to that one. Where do you hope to see yourself in 5 years?
Well, I hope
Hopefully
to have
not making creations still, right?
either this feature completed or another feature. I have a feature that's set in Seattle in 1994, which is 20 years ago, like we were talking about, and is actually quite a bit cheaper to do.
Is it written already?
Yeah, actually.
What's it called?
Lady Blue.
Lady Blue. Okay. Well, that's another one. Anyway, where can readers view or find out more about your films? Can they contact you? You can talk to the camera.
Always.
Tell them. No,
Yeah,
this one
yeah.
right here is yours.
Yeah, KristenKimball@gmail.com, always. And you can see about half of my films, half of my films that are worth showing up at KristenKimball.com.
Okay. Anyway, we're running out of time here. I want to thank you for joining us here on Portland Film Beat. I want to thank Kristen for joining us and talking about her film creation. And we wish her the best of luck in getting that made. It sounds like a fun film. It's certainly got a lucid dream look to it, that's for sure. My name's David Poland. I want to thank Ellery Nelson, who is my director. I want to thank my wife, Carol Poland, who is the producer. And until next time on Portland Film Beat, shoot for the silver screen.